Krishna bro,
Yes.
reading के लिए खुल जाए.
Yes. I saw the section.
अभी क्लास में क्या रीडिंग कर रहे टेम्पल हॉल में?
Temple में तो
क्या टॉपिक चल रहा
6th canto. Vritasura past.
है? वृतासुर फर्स्ट टेम्पल. Which श्लोका?
श्लोका नंबर पत पूछना.
चेक कर. 6th कैंटो निकालो ना. बारह तारीख. हाँ तो जो है. हाँ 6th कैंटो. वहाँ बैठ जाइए. हाँ. अभी टेम्पल हॉल में वृतासुर चल रहा है. वृतासुर फर्स्ट टाइम. कौन सा चैप्टर में है वृतासुर?
नाइन चैप्टर से स्टार्ट है.
वो 9 चैप्टर से स्टार्ट है. स्टार्टिंग से पढ़े. 9 चैप्टर स्टार्टिंग से पढ़े.
9 to 12 है.
इस वक्त जी
9 चैप्टर स्टार्टिंग से पढ़िए.
Canto 6, 9 chapter. Text 1. Translation. Shri Shukdev Goswami continued. Vishwarup, who was engaged as the priest of the demigod, had 3 heads. He used one to drink the beverage Somaras, another to drink wine, and third to eat food. O King Parikshit, thus I have heard from authorities. O purport, one cannot directly perceive the kingdom of heaven, its king and other inhabitants, or how they perform their various engagements. For no one can go to the heavenly planets. Although modern scientists have invented many powerful space vehicles, they cannot even go to moon, not to speak of other planets. By direct experience, one cannot learn anything beyond the range of human perception. One must hear from authorities. Therefore, Sukadeva Goswami, a great personality, says, "What I am describing to you, O king, is what I have heard from authorities' sources." This is the Vedic system. The Vedic knowledge is called Shruti because it must be received by being heard from authorities. It is beyond the realm of our false experimental knowledge. Translation. O Maharaj Parikshit, the demigods were related to Vishwarup from his father's side, and therefore he visibly offered clarified butter in the fire while chanting mantras such as Indraya Idam Swaha. This is
This is chapter 9. Hmm? Chapter 10.
chapter 10. Chapter 10. The battle between the demigods and Vrittasura. Text 1 translation. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said, after instructing Indra in this way, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, the cause of the cosmic manifestation, then and there disappeared from the presence of onlooking demigods. O King Parikshit, following the Lord's instructions, the demigods approached Dadichi, the son of Atharva. He was very liberal, and when they begged him to give them his body, he at once partially agreed. However, just to hear religious instruction from them, he smiled and jokingly spoke as follows. O elevated demigods, at the time of death, severe, unbearable pain takes away the consciousness of all living entities who have accepted material bodies. Don't you know about this pain? Translation. In this material world, every living entity is very much addicted to his material body. Struggling to keep his body forever, everyone tries to protect it by all means, even at the sacrifice of all his possessions. Therefore, who would be prepared to deliver his body to anyone, even if it is were demanded by Lord Vishnu? Purport. It is said, Atmanam sarvato rakshet, tato dharmam tato dhanam. One must protect his body by all means, then he may protect his religious principles, and thereafter his possessions. This is the natural desire of all living entities. No one wants to give up this body unless it is forcibly given away. Even though the demigods said that they were demanding Dadichi's body for their benefit in the accordance with the order of Lord Vishnu, Dadichi superficially refused to give them his body. Translation. The demigods replied, O exalted Brahman, pious person like you, whose activities are praiseworthy, are very kind and affectionate to people in general. What can't be such pious souls give for the benefit of others? They can give everything, including their bodies. Those who are too self-interested beg something from others, not knowing of others' pain. Even if the beggar knew the difficulty of the giver, he would not ask for anything. Similarly, he who is able to give charity does not know the beggar's difficulty, for otherwise he would not refuse to give the beggar anything he might want as charity. This word describes two people, one who gives charity and one who begs for it. A beggar should not ask charity from a person who is in difficulty. Similarly, one who is able to give charity should not deny a beggar. These are the moral instruction of Shastra. Chanakya Pandit said, San nimitta varanam tyago vinashe niyate sati. Everything within this material world will be destroyed, and therefore one should use everything for good purpose. If one is advanced in knowledge, he must always be prepared to sacrifice anything for a better cause. At the present moment, the entire world is in the dangerous position under the spell of godless civilization. The Krishna consciousness movement needs many exalted, learned persons who will sacrifice their lives to revive God consciousness throughout the world. We therefore invite all men and women advanced in knowledge to join the Krishna consciousness movement and sacrifice their lives for the great cause of reviving the God consciousness of human society. Translation. The great sage Dadichi said, just to hear from you about religious principle, I refused to offer my body at your request. Now, although my body is extremely dear to me, I must give it up for better purpose, since I know that it will leave me today or tomorrow. O demigods, one who has no compassion for humanity in its suffering and does not sacrifice his impermanent body for the higher cause of religious principle or external glory, is certainly pitied even by the immovable beings. In this regard, a very exalted example was set by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and sixth Goswami of Vrindavan. Concerning Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.34, Tyaktva Sudastyaj Surpektiraj Lakshmim Dharmist Arya Vachasa Yad Agadharanyam Maya Mragam Daita Yepshitam Anvadhavat Vande Mahapurushate Charanar Vindam. We offer our respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of the Lord, upon whom one should always meditate. He left his householder life, leaving aside his eternal consort, whom even the denizens of heaven adore. He went into the forest to deliver the fallen souls, who are put into illusion by material energy. To accept sannyas means to commit civil suicide. But sannyas is compulsory, at least for every Brahman, every first class human being. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a very young and beautiful wife and a very affectionate mother. Indeed, the affectionate dealing of his family members were so pleasing that even the demigods could not expect such happiness at home. Nevertheless, for the deliverance of all the fallen souls of the world, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas and left home when he was only 24 years old. He lived a very strict life as a sannyasi, refusing all bodily comfort. Similarly, his disciple, the sixth Goswami, were ministers who held exalted position in society. But they also left everything to join the movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Srinivasacharya says, Tyakta Turnam Ashesha Mandalapatim Shrenim Sada Tuchchavat Bhutva Dina Ganesha Kau Karunaya Kaupin Kanthashritau. These Goswamis left their very comfortable lives as minister, Jamidar and learned scholars and joined Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu movement just to show mercy to fallen souls of the world. Accepting very humble lives as mendicants, wearing no more than a loincloths and torn quilts. They lived in Vrindavan and followed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order to execute Vrindavan Lord's lost glories. Similarly, everyone else with a materially comfortable condition in this world should join the Krishna consciousness movement to elevate the fallen souls. The words Bhut Dayaya Maya Mragam, Daitepsitam and Deen Ganesh Karanav all convey the same sense. These are very significant words for those interested in elevating human society to a proper understanding of life. one should join Krishna consciousness movement following the example of such great personalities as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the six Goswamis, and before them the great sage Dadiji. Instead of wasting one life for a temporary bodily comfort, one should always be prepared to give up one's life for better causes. After all, the body will be destroyed. Therefore, one should sacrifice it for the glory of distributing religious principles throughout the world. Translation: if one is unhappy to see the distress of other living beings and happy to see their happiness, his religious principles are appreciated as imperishable by exalted personality who are considered pious and benevolent. Purport: one generally follows different types of religious principle or performs various occupational duties according to the body given to him by the modes of material nature. In this verse, however, real religious principles are explained. Everyone should be unhappy to see others in distress and happy to see others happy. Atmavat sarva bhuteshu. One should feel the happiness and distress of others as his own. It is on the basis that Buddhist religious principle of non-violence, ahimsa parama dharma, is established. We feel pain when someone disturbs us, and therefore we should not inflict pain upon other living beings. Lord Buddha's mission was to stop unnecessary animal killing, and therefore he preached that the greatest religious principle is non-violence. One cannot continue killing animals and at the same time be religious man. This is the greatest hypocrisy. Jesus Christ said, "Do not kill." But hypocrites nevertheless maintain thousands of slaughterhouses while posing as Christians. Such hypocrisy is condemned in this verse. One should be happy to see others happy, and one should be unhappy to see others unhappy. This is the principle to be followed. Unfortunately, at the present moment, so-called philanthropists and humanitarians advocate the happiness of humanity at the cost of the lives of poor animals. That is not recommended herein. This verse clearly says that one should be compassionate to all living entities, regardless of whether human, animal, tree or plant. All living entities are son of Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva yonishu kaunteya murtaya sambhavantiya te tasham brahma mahadiyonir aham bija pradhapita. It should be understood that all the streams of life, O son of Kunti, are made possible by the birth in this material nature, and that I am the seed-giving father. The different forms of these living entities are only their external dress. Every living being is actually a spirit soul, a part and parcel of God. Therefore, one should not favor only one kind of living entity. A Vaishnava sees all living entities as a part and parcel of God, as the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 5.18 and 18.54. Vidya viniya sampanne brahmane gavihastini suni chaiva swapakesha pandita samdarshina. The humble sage, by the virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentleman Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog eater, outcast. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na sochati na kanchati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhyate param. One who is transcendentally situated at once realizes the supreme Brahma and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me. A Vaishnava, therefore, is truly a perfect person because he laments to see others unhappy and feels joy at seeing others happy. A Vaishnava is para dukh dukhi. He is always unhappy to see the conditioned souls in unhappy state of materialism. Therefore, a Vaishnava is always busy preaching Krishna consciousness throughout the world. Text and translation. This body, which is eatable by jackals and dogs after death, does not actually do any good for me. The spirit soul, it is usable only for a short time and may perish at any moment. The body and its possessions, its riches and relatives must all be engaged for the benefit of others, or else they will be source of tribulation and misery. But similar advice is given in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10.22.35. Etava janma safalayam dehinam iha dehushi pranair arthair diyah vacha shreya arachanam sada. It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. This is the mission of life. One's own body and the bodies of his friend, relative, as well as one's own riches and everything else.
Read the purport again.
Similar purport, text 10. Similar advice is also given in Srimad Bhagavatam. Etavad janma safalyam dehinam dehushi pranair arthair diya vacha shreya archanam sada. It is the duty of every living being to perform welfare activities for the benefit of others with his life, wealth, intelligence, and words. This is the mission of life. One's own body and the bodies of his friends and relatives, as well as one's own riches and everything else one has, should be engaged for the benefit of others. This is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as stated in Chaitanya Charitamrit Adi Leela 9.41. Bharat bhumite haila manushya janmayar janma sarthak kari kar par upakar. One who has taken birth as a human being in the land of India, Bharatvarsh, should make his life successful and work for the benefit of all other people. The word upa kuriyat means parupkar, helping others. Of course, in human society there are many institutions to help others, but because philanthropists do not know how to help others, their propensity for philanthropy is ineffectual. They do not know the ultimate goal of life, which is to please Supreme Lord. If all the philanthropic and humanitarian activities were directed toward achieving the ultimate goal of life, to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they would all perfect. Humanitarian work without Krishna is nothing. Krishna must be brought to the center of all our activities. Otherwise, no activity will have value. Text 11. Shri Shukadev Goswami said, Dadichi Muni, the son of Atharva, thus resolved to give up his body to the service of demigods. He placed himself in the spirit soul at the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead, and in this way gave up his gross material body made of 5 elements. But as indicated by the word Pare Bhagavati Brahmanya Atmanam Sananyam, Dadichi placed himself as a spirit soul at the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this regard, one may refer to the incident of Dhritarashtra leaving his body, as described in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.13.55. Dhritarashtra analytically divided his gross material body into 5 different elements of which it was made: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and distributed them to the different reservoir of these elements. In other words, he merged these 5 elements into original Mahatattva. By identifying his material condition of life, he gradually separated his spirit soul from material connections and placed himself at the lotus feet of Supreme Personality of Godhead. The example given in this connection is that when an earthen pot is broken, the small portion of the sky within the pot is united with the large sky outside the pot. Mayavadi philosophers misunderstand this description of Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, Sri Ramanuja Swami in this book Vedanta Tattvasar has described that This merging of the soul means that after separating himself from material body made of 8 elements earth, water, fire, air, ether, false ego, mind and intelligence, the individual soul engaged himself in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his eternal form. Ishvara Param Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. The material cause of the material elements absorbs the material body, and the spiritual soul assumes its original position, as described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jiver Sarupaya Krishner Nityadas. The constitutional position of living entity is that he is the eternal servant of Krishna. When one overcomes the material body through cultivation of spiritual knowledge and devotional service, one can revive his own position and thus engage in the service of Lord. Textual translation. Dadichi Muni controlled his senses, life force, mind and intelligence, and became absorbed in trance. Thus he cut all his material bonds. He could not perceive how his material body becomes separated from his self. Textual translation. Dadichi Muni controlled his senses, life force, mind and intelligence, and became absorbed in trance. Thus he cut all his material bonds. He could not perceive how his material body became separated from his self. Purport. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 8.5, Antakale chamameva smaram muktva kalevaram yah prayati sa mad bhavam yati nashti atra samshaya. Whoever at the time of death quits his body remembering me alone at once attain my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Of course, one must practice before one is overcome by death, but the perfect yogi, namely the devotee, dies in trance, thinking of Krishna. He does not feel his material body being separated from his soul. The soul is immediately transferred into the spiritual world. Tyakta deham punarjanma naiti mam iti. The soul does not enter the womb of material mother again, but is transferred back home, back to Godhead. This yoga, Bhakti Yoga, is the highest yoga system as explained by Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 6.47. Yoginam api sarvesham mad gate mantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yumam same yuktatmano matah. Of all the yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. The Bhakti Yoga always thinks of Krishna, and therefore at the time of death he can very easily transfer himself to Krishna Loka without even perceiving the pains of death. Text 13 and 14. Translation. Thereafter King Indra very firmly took up the thunderbolt manufactured by Vishwakarma from the bones of Dadichi. Charged with the exalted power of Dadichi Muni and enlightened by the power of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Indra rode on the back of his carrier Airavat, surrounded by all the demigods, while all the great sages offered him praise. Thus he shone very beautifully, pleasing the three worlds as the rod of to kill Vrittasura. Translation. My dear King Parikshit, as Rudra, being very angry at Antak, Yamraj, had formally run towards Antak to kill him, Indra angrily and with great force attacked Vrittasura, who was surrounded by leaders of demonic armies. Text 16. Translation. Thereafter, at the end of Satya Yuga and the beginning of Treta Yuga, a fierce battle took place between the demigods and the demons on the bank of Narmada. Purport. Herein, The Narmada does not mean the Narmada river in India. The 5 sacred rivers in India, Ganga, Yamuna, Narmada, Kaveri and Krishna, are all celestial. Like the Ganga river, the Narmada river also flows in the higher planetary system. The battle between demigods and the demons took place in the higher planets. The word Prathame Yuge means in the beginning of first millennium. That is to say, in the beginning of Vaivashvat Manvantar, in one day of Brahma, there are 14 Manus, who each live for 71 millenniums. The 4 Yuga, Satya, Treta, Dwapar and Kali, constitute 1 millennium. We are presently in Manvantar of Vaivashvat Manu, who is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. Imam Vivashvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivashwan Manave Praha. We are now in the 28th millennium of Vaivashvat Manu. But this fight took place in the beginning of Vaivashvat Manu's first millennium. One can historically calculate how long ago the battle took place. Since each millennium consists of 4,30,000 years and we are now in the 28th millennium, some 12 crore 40 lakh years have passed since the battle took place on the bank of river Narmada. Text 17 and 18. O king, when all the asuras came onto the battlefield headed by the Vrittasur, they saw King Indra carrying the thunderbolt and surrounded by Rudra, Vasus, Aditya, Ashwini Kumar, Pitas, Vahinas, Marutas, Ribhus, Satyas, Vishwadevas. Surrounded by his company, Indra shone so brightly that his effulgence was intolerable to the demons. Text 19 to 22. Translation. Many hundreds and hundreds of demons, demi-demons, Yaksh, Rakshas, meat-eaters and others, headed by Sumali, Mali, resisted the armies of King Indra, which even death personified cannot easily overcome. Among the demons were Namuchi, Sambar, Anarva, Dimurdha, Rishabh, Asura, Hayagriva, Shankushri, Viparchitti, Ayomukh, Uloma, Vrashparva, Praheti, Heti, and Utkal. Roaring tumultuously and fearlessly like lions, these invincible demons, all dressed in golden ornaments, gave pain to demigods with weapons like clubs, bludgeons, arrows, barbed darts, mallets, and lances. Text 23 translation. Armed with lances, tridents, axes, swords, and other weapons like satagnis, bushandis, the demons attacked from different directions and scattered all the thieves of demigods' armies. Translation. As the stars in the sky cannot be seen when covered by dense clouds, the demigods, being completely covered by the network of arrows falling upon them one after another, could not be seen. The showers of various weapons and arrows released to kill the soldier of demigods did not reach them because the demigods, acting quickly, cut the weapons into thousands of pieces in the sky. As their weapons and the mantras decreased, the demons began showering mountain peaks, trees, and stones upon the demigod soldiers. But the demigods were so powerful and expert that they have nullified all these weapons by breaking them into pieces in the sky as before. When the soldiers of demigods, commanded by Vrittasur, saw that the soldiers of King Indra were quite well, having not been injured at all by their volleys of weapons, not even by the trees, stones, and mountains' peaks, the demons were very much afraid. When insignificant person use rough word to cast false, angry accusations against saintly person, their fruitful words do not disturb the great personalities. Similarly, all the effort of the demons against the demigod, who were favorably situated under the protection of Krishna, were futile. Purport. There is a Bengali saying that if a vulture curses a cow to die, the curse will not be effective. Similarly, accusations made by demonic persons against the devotees of Krishna cannot have any effect. The demigods are devotees of Lord Krishna, and therefore the curses of demigods were futile. Text 29. Translation. The Asuras, who are never devotees of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, lost their pride in fighting when they found all their endeavors futile. Leaving aside their leader, even in the very beginning to the fight, they decided to flee because all their prowess had been taken away by the enemy. Seeing his enemy broken and all the Asuras, even those known as great heroes, fleeing the battlefield out of intense fear, Vritrasur, who was truly a great-minded hero, smiled and spoke the following words. According to his position and the time and the circumstances, Vritrasur, the hero among heroes, spoke words that were much to be appreciated by thoughtful men. He called to the heroes of demons, O Viprachitti, O Namuchi, O Kulam, O Maya, O Anarva, Sambar, please hear me and do not flee. Vritrasur said, all the living entities who have taken birth in this material world must die. Surely, no one in this world has found any means to be saved from death. Even Providences has not provided a means to escape it. Under the circumstances, death being inevitable, if one can gain promotion to the higher planetary systems and be always celebrated here by dying a suitable death, what man will not accept such a glorious death? Purport. If by dying one can be elevated to higher planetary system and be ever famous after his death, who is so foolish that he will refuse such a glorious death? Similar advice was also given by Krishna to Arjuna. My dear Arjuna, the Lord said, do not desist from fighting. If you gain victory in the fight, you will enjoy a kingdom. And even if you die, you will be elevated to heavenly planets. Everyone should be ready to die while performing glorious deeds. A glorious person is not meant to meet death like cats and dogs. Translation, text 33. There are two ways to meet a glorious death, and both are very rare. One is to die after performing mystic yoga, especially bhakti yoga, by which one can control the mind and the living force and die absorbed in the thought of Supreme Personality of Godhead. The second is to die on the battlefield, leading the army and never showing one's back. These two kinds of death are recommended in the Shastras as glorious. Thus, the end of Bhaktivedanta Purport 6 Canto 12 chapter Srimad Bhagavatam. 11th chapter start करूँगा. Chapter 11.
The 10th chapter finished, na?
Yes.
10th chapter finished. Start from 11.
Chapter 11. The transcendental qualities of Vritrasura. Text 1. Translation. Sri Shukadeva Goswami says, O King, Vritrasura, the commander-in-chief of the demons, advised his lieutenants in the principle of religion, but cowardly demonic commanders intent upon fleeing the battlefield were so disturbed by the fear that they could not accept his words. O King Parikshit, the demigods, taking advantage of favorable opportunity presented by time, attacked the army of the demons from the rear and began driving away the demonic soldiers, scattering them here and there as if their army had no leader. Seeing the pitiable condition of his soldiers, Vritrasura the best of Asuras, who was called Indra Satru, the enemy of Indra, were very much aggrieved. Unable to tolerate such reverses, he stopped and forcefully rebuked the demigods, speaking the following words in an angry mood. O demigods, these demonic soldiers have taken birth uselessly. Indeed, they have come from the bodies of their mothers exactly like a stool. What is the benefit of killing such enemies from behind while they are running in fear? One who considered himself a hero should not kill an enemy who is afraid of losing his life. Such killing is never glorious, nor can it promote to the heavenly planets. But Vratasur rebuked both the demigods and the demonic soldiers because the demons were running in fear of their lives and the demigods were killing them from behind. The action of both were abdominal. When a fight takes place, the opposing parties must be prepared to fight like heroes. A hero never runs from the field of battle. He always fights face to face, determined to gain victory or lay down his life in the fight. This is heroic. Killing an enemy from behind is also inglorious. When an enemy turns his back and runs in fear of his life, he should not be killed. This is the etiquette of military science. Vratasur insulted the demonic soldiers by comparing them to stool of their mothers. Both stool and cowardly son come from the abdomen of the mother, and Vratasur said that there is no difference between them. A similar comparison was given by Tulsidas, who commented that a son and the urine both come from the same channel. In the other word, semen and the urine both from the genitals. But the semen produce a child, whereas the urine produce nothing. Therefore, if a child is neither a hero nor a devotee, he is not a son but urine. Similarly, Chanakya Pandit also says, Ko artha putrena jatena yona vidvana dharmika kanena chakshu kimva chakshu pi daiva kevalam. What is the use of son who is neither glorious nor devotee to the Lord? Such a son is like a blind eye, which simply gives pain but cannot help one see. Text-wise translation. O insignificant demigod, if you truly have faith in your heroism, if you have patience in the crores of your heart, and if you are not ambitious for sense gratification, please stand before me for a moment. But rebuking the demigods, Vratasur challenged, O demigod, if you are actually heroes, stand before me now and try to show your prowess. If you do not wish to fight, if you are afraid of losing your lives, I shall not kill you. For unlike you, I am not so evil-minded as to kill persons who are neither heroic nor willing to fight. If you have faith in your heroism, please stand before me. Text 6 translation. Sukadeva Goswami said, Vratasur, the angry and the most powerful hero, terrified the demigods with his stout and strongly built body. When he roared with a resounding voice, nearly all the living entities fainted. When all the demigods hear Vratasur tumultuous roar, which resembled that of a lion, they fainted and fell to the ground as if struck by thunderbolts. As the demigods closed their eyes in fear, Vratasur, taking up his trident and making the earth tremble with his great strength, trampled the demigods beneath his feet on the battlefield, the way a mad elephant tramples hollow bamboos in the forest. Seeing Vratasura's disposition, Indra, the king of heaven, became intolerant and threw at him one of his great clubs, which are extremely difficult to counteract. However, as the club flew towards him, Vratasur easily caught it with his left hand. O King Parikshit, the powerful Vratasur, the enemy of King Indra, angrily struck the head of Indra's elephant with that club, making a tumultuous sound of the battlefield. For this heroic deed, the soldiers on the both sides glorified him. Struck with the club by Vritrasur, like a mountain struck by a thunderbolt, the elephant Airavat, feeling great pain and spitting blood from its broken mouth, was pushed back 14 yards. In great distress, the elephant fell with Indra on its back. When he saw Indra's carrier elephant thus fatigued and injured, and when he saw Indra morose because his carrier had been harmed in that way, the great soul Vritrasur, following religious principle, refrained from again striking Indra with the club. Taking this opportunity, Indra touched the elephant with his nectar-producing hand, thus relieving the animal's pain and curing its injuries. Then the elephant and Indra both stood silently. O king, when the great hero Vritrasur saw Indra, his enemy, the killer of his brother, standing before him with a thunderbolt in his hand, desiring to fight, Vritrasur remembered how Indra had cruelly killed his brother. Thinking of Indra's sinful activities, he became mad with lamentation and forgetfulness. Laughing sarcastically, he spoke as follows. Translation. Sri Vritrasur said, "He who has killed a Brahman, he who has killed a spiritual master, indeed who has killed my brother, is now by good fortune standing before me face to face as my enemy. O most abdominal one, when I pierce you stone-like hurt with my trident, I shall be freed from my debt to my brother. Only for the sake of living in the heavenly planets, you have killed my elder brother, a self-realized, sinless, qualified Brahman who had been appointed your chief priest. He was your spiritual master, but although you entrusted him with the performance of your sacrifice, you later mercilessly severed his heads from his body the way one butchers an animal." Indra, you are bereft of all shame, mercy, glory, and good fortune. Deprived of these good qualities by the reaction of your fruitive activities, you are to be condemned even by the man-eater Rakshas. Now I shall pierce your body with my trident, and after you die with a great pain, even fire will not touch you, only the vultures will eat your body. You are naturally cruel. If the other demigod, unaware of my prowess, follow you by attacking me with raised weapon, I shall sever their heads with the sharp trident. With those heads, I shall perform a sacrifice to Bhairav and other leader of the ghost along with their hordes. But if in this battle you cut off my head with your thunderbolt and kill my soldiers, O Indra, O great hero, I shall take great pleasure in offering my body to the other living entity, such as jackal and vultures. I shall thus be relieved of my obligation to the reactions of my karma, and my fortune will be received the dust from the lotus feet of great devotees like Narad Muni. Purport. Sri Narottam Das Thakur sings, Ei Chaya Gosai Yara Muitara Das Tanas Rabra Pada Renu Mura Pancha Grass. I am the servant of 6 Goswamis, and the dust of their lotus feet provides my 5 kind of food. A Vaishnava always desire the dust of the lotus feet of previous Acharya and Vaishnava. Vritrasur was certain that he would be killed in the battle with Indra because this was the desire of Lord Vishnu. He was prepared for death because he knew that after his death he was destined to return home back to Godhead. This is the great destination, and it is achieved by the grace of Vaishnava. Chhadiya Vaishnava Seva Nistar Payeche Keva.